This is a Pikes Peak Marathon update, brought to you by Fitness Systems, Giuseppe's Depot Restaurant, Criterion Bike Shops, and by Grand West Outfitters.
The Pikes Peak Marathon is billed as America's ultimate running challenge. But in order to do your best towards KRDO's Triple Crown of Running, which takes just the time to the top of the mountain, most competitors decide to run the Ascent the day before. Such was the case last year, and it turned into quite a race on the men's side. Three men, Scott Elliott, Mark Stickley, and Matt Carpenter, jumped out to the lead right from the start, and it stayed that way for quite a while.
Pretty much all the way up to bar camp, we juggled around in there. Early on we lost Scott, and he came back and made a move, and I dropped back, and then I was back up there, and then Matt took off at bar camp. So up until bar camp it was about all together.
Further up the mountain, it turned into a two-man race between Carpenter and Stickley, but Elliott shouldn't have been counted out. While he developed stomach cramps and lost up to 30 seconds at some points, he had spent 3 weeks on the mountain in preparation for the race, and he wasn't going to be denied.
I ran a race against Mark Stickley, and we both thought Scott Elliott was out of it. I mean, he sounded so bad when we hit the dirt. He dropped 30 seconds and caught back up, caught a cramp, dropped 30 seconds, caught back up, dropped 30, and we thought, I thought he was out of it. So I was running against Mark Stickley.
It was fun. I got up to him and caught up to him around the circ and asked him how he was feeling, and he said, "Go for it." And I did.
So Elliott completed the impossible, winning the Ascent in an incredible time of 2 hours, 6 minutes, and 47 seconds. Matt Carpenter finished second, with Stickley third. For the women, Janie DeLacour really took her time, checking her watch to make sure she was well ahead of her competitors most of the race, and once she even stopped to sign an autograph because she was doing so well on her race. She finished in a time of 2 hours, 37 minutes, and 35 seconds, completing an exciting 2 weeks, which included her own wedding.
I'm just so excited. I'm really on a high now. I ran Georgetown last weekend and ran a 2-minute PR, and then I got married the next day and went on a honeymoon, and everything's perfect. It's great.
So DeLacour won the Ascent again, this time by close to 20 minutes over the nearest competitor. Thus, the KRDO Triple Crown of Running finished up like this. Matt Carpenter, the winner on the men's side, with Mark Stickley second, and Janie DeLacour won again on the women's side. Kirsten Kint, who has dared to run the three events, finished in a modest second for her first time. Now we'll be back to take a look at last year's entire marathon run right after this. The Pikes Peak Marathon is just 26.3 miles long, no more mileage than any other marathon, but oh, the toll it can take on you. But think about running it on the day after you finish second in the race just to the top of the mountain. That's exactly what Matt Carpenter did last year, and he won the marathon. Early on, Matt was showing Mexican Clovas Vajegas the way, but when it really came time to run, Matt took control, racing to the top just 6 minutes slower than the day before, and then holding off Creighton King in a race for the finish down the hill. Amazing when you think that this was his second time up the mountain in 2 days.
It's bordering, if not actually accomplishing, the superhuman. That's what I think, as a mountain runner, and I've pushed myself many days and I've run a lot of races, but to run a 2:08 up time yesterday and then to run 3:39 round trip today is unbelievable.
I think the only reason why I did it is everybody said I was crazy. They said it couldn't be done. And they say that about a lot of things I do and say. And, I believe that if you believe in yourself, and you set realistic goals, you can accomplish them.
For the women, Linda Quinlisk was also an amazing story. She won the marathon for the 4th time in 9 years, despite suffering from a clothes rash for most of the race, and then falling on the way down, cutting and bruising her face. Race officials urged her to stop, but she wanted to finish. And she did, beating Kim Schaefer to the line.
I can't complain, and yeah, it's really nice to come back and win it because there's so much pressure, after you've won it, and you knew you weren't doing well. Oh dear. So I'm so thankful. I'm really pleased.
So one last check of the final standings in last year's marathon. Carpenter gets the win on the men's side, followed by Creighton King, and for the ladies, Quinlisk gets the win. Schaefer second, with Sharon Foster in third. Well, tune in again tomorrow night. We'll give you some tips on how to run both the Ascent and the Marathon should you choose to take the challenge. We'll see you then.
This Pikes Peak Marathon update has been brought to you by Fitness Systems, Giuseppe's Depot Restaurant, Criterium Bike Shops, and by Grand West Outfitters. This is a Pikes Peak Marathon update, brought to you by Fitness Systems, Giuseppe's Depot Restaurant, Criterium Bike Shops, and by Grand West Outfitters.
A run like the Pikes Peak Marathon, or even the Ascent alone, poses many a problem to those who wish to complete the course in a safe and somewhat comfortable manner. What clothes and running gear to wear is a question most asked by newcomers to the event. Now, if you are going to complete just the Ascent, or you want to change articles of clothing at the top of the mountain for the run down, you can check a bag with your number on it with race officials at the start line. It will then be sent to the top of the mountain for you. Nancy Hobbs of the Triple Crown and race director Carl McDaniel suggest the best methods for making the trek.
At the start of the race, you might either be more comfortable in a pair of lightweight running shorts or a lightweight pair of running tights. The reason for the tights would be in case it gets a little cooler toward the top of the mountain, and also in case you do run into falling, you might have some extra padding on your legs to brace your fall and not get scraped up on your legs.
Also, for the protection of your head, whether you're bald or not, you should wear head protection. It becomes extremely hot in the sun, even though it is cold. For some reason, you can get sunburn extremely easy on the top of Pikes Peak. So wear either a hat or a stocking cap for both warmth and protection from the sun.
Also take either a pair of gloves or a pair of lightweight socks. And the gloves are comfortable to wear along the whole trail. And if we get a little bit warm, we can take the gloves and put them in the back of our shorts. Socks are also nice to wear. They're a little bit lighter weight than a glove might be. And this would be good to use in case you might have to brace yourself from a fall or position yourself off rocks near the top of the mountain. You also can wear a lightweight shoe to run to the top of the mountain, and something that doesn't need much of a waffle bottom on it. So a lightweight training flat or a racing flat is fine for the trip up to the top of the mountain.
Some additional tips for those runners that will be taking a longer time on the mountain. They should wear some additional clothing. They should wear a lightweight sweatsuit, both top and bottom, and it becomes especially advantageous to the downhill runners. We can see radical changes in temperature as much as 20 to 30 degrees and wind on the upper 3 miles of the mountain. Lightweight, you can just tuck them in and no problems. When you do reach the summit, a good thing to remember, if you have an extra pair of socks, change them to dry socks. Tie your shoelaces tight so you can be in better control going down the mountain. It's easy, so easy to step on a rock, turn an ankle. You should bring extra water bottles with you or one that you can carry. Dehydration becomes one of the biggest problems we have on the mountain. And so we won't carry you off. Take on water, take additional water with you in a water bottle, and it'll be really helpful. With your waffle shoes, if you're running the round trip, you should wear the waffles on both the ascent and descent. The waffle will give you additional control in your foot placement in the softer, loose sand as well as on the rocks.
I'm runner number 13, and I need to check some equipment at the bottom of the mountain to have sent to the top. I put number 13 on my race bag, and these are the types of things you might want to send to the top of the mountain. A nice nylon lightweight jacket. This one fortunately has removable sleeves, so if it gets a little cool or a little warm, you might want to take the sleeves off. But a nice lightweight running jacket is nice to have at the top of the mountain. Also, I didn't wear my tights when I was running, so I decided to send my tights to the top. I have a lightweight pair of running tights. In addition to that, I have the bottoms to the windsuit that I have. These are a nice pair of tights that I can put over top of my legs to keep warm. My shirt also would get a little bit wet on the way up to the top, and I have an extra shirt to wear at the top. In addition to that, I brought some fuel for my body when I get to the top. I've got a banana and a few power bars to eat when I get to the top. All this I'll check at the bottom of the mountain with my runner, number 13, and at the top of the mountain, I pick my bag up with runner number 13.
Now that you know what to wear, we'll give you the do's and don'ts on how to run the course after this. Our first tip on running the course involves your technique on actually running the mountain. Be sure that you keep your feet flat while making the climb. Do not step on only the toes of your foot. This would put severe strain on your calf muscles and lead to cramping. It's a good thing you brought your gloves or socks to protect your hands on the way up and down the hill. You'll need them to keep your hands in good condition when you use them to keep your balance on the rocks. Now, passing on the mountain is extremely tough if runners fail to cooperate with each other. Slower runners should yield to faster competitors when that competitor calls for a pass on either side. All runners who are still on the uphill side of the course should yield to the faster downhill runners. The downhill runners should yell to let the uphill runner know that they are coming. With these tips in mind, it should be easy for all of the competitors in tomorrow and Sunday's races to make a safe and complete trip up the mountain. Good luck to one and all.
This is a Pikes Peak Marathon update, brought to you by Fitness Systems, Giuseppe's Depot Restaurant, Criterion Bike Shops, and by Grand West Outfitters.
When you hear it said that people come from all over to compete in the Pikes Peak Ascent, you definitely hear it right. All 50 states were represented at today's race. The state of Arkansas brought over 130 mentally deranged people to run, and a few other countries also had runners on the big hill. So why do all these people find it necessary to put themselves through the grind of running up a 13.4-mile course that will take most of them more than 3.5 hours to complete? Well, I don't know. So we asked them.
I don't know.
Well, some people don't have common sense, I guess.
It's just fun, and I enjoy the challenge, personal challenge.
I think I'm crazy.
I'd love to do it.
Oh, I mean, it's beautiful. It's a great challenge. The scenery is fantastic. And it's just a great time to come visit Colorado. It's a nice weather. It was over 100 degrees when we left Arkansas Thursday.
What have they told you about Pikes Peak?
Oh, well, they said make sure you see a Bob Dylan concert the night before you go so that when you go up there you feel a lot better.
Well, yeah, everybody says that the bottom falls out at the A-frame and there's not anything you can do about it, so we're not going to do anything about it. Just try and get done.
Just try to enjoy myself and take in some scenery and try to keep my mind together.
It's a tough one. I went up there Tuesday. A buddy of mine and I went up Tuesday to walk it. It's a tough one, but I'll make it.
Challenging the self, ego punishment, pure craziness, because it's there. For whatever the reason, all of today's competitors found a certain sense of satisfaction by completing the trek. We'll come back and take a look at the leaders of the pack right after this. The top two men in today's ascent were the same names as last year's final. However, the arrangement was swapped. Matt Carpenter fought through winds of up to 40 miles per hour that made the climb to the top extremely tough, but he stuck it out.
There was a wind coming across that final switchback, and it was blowing, and I was really thankful I didn't drop my shirt. I thought about dropping my shirt early, but I held on to it. I held on to the great hat you guys got, kept my gloves, and I put everything back on as soon as we got above tree line. To be totally honest, I wasn't worrying about the wind. I have a lot of respect for Scott Elliott. He's a really excellent runner. About the only thing I have more respect for than Scott is the mountain itself, so I tried to run within myself and tried to keep tabs on myself and never think about the finish until it was here.
Scott Elliott fell behind Carpenter at the trailhead and was playing catch-up all the way. But unlike last year, he was unable to make up the time.
It may have just been a little bit of lack of emotion when Matt pulled away at the top of Mount Manitou. It's a matter of him being in sight. If he's out of sight, it's out of mind, and it's a little bit more of a mind game. And since he was out of sight, I was just hoping that he might come back to me. The last time I saw him was maybe a mile above Mount Manitou, and then I saw him again, but he was quite a ways away after I got out of Timberline. I'm never surprised at what Matt does. He's a monster, and he had a really good day, and I had a mediocre one.
You feel like coming back next year and getting your crown back?
Yeah, I'll be back.
Carpenter didn't set a record due to the tough winds, but his time of 2:07:36 was just a minute off the record pace. Elliott finished a minute and a half later. For the women today, Janie DeLacour was again the story, winning the Ascent in 2:44:40, and she too had trouble with the gusting winds.
Yeah, I noticed quite a bit, when it's in your face, there were some gusts that were so strong. It's hard to stand up, sometimes. I knew the time wouldn't be any good, when we got up here. Because you can't run hard, but everyone has the same conditions, so it still can be competitive.
So right now it looks like the KRDO Triple Crown of Running has repeat champs. Matt Carpenter on the men's side, Janie DeLacour for the women. It's not quite final yet because some of the competitors may be running in the marathon tomorrow, which can also be counted toward the Triple Crown final. Both Carpenter and DeLacour are happy with the possible repeat.
Oh, it's nice. This year there seemed to be more competition, pretty close, so that made it more fun, This year I was training for a marathon that was more of an emphasis, so I sacrificed a couple other races, I ran Mount Evans the day before, and so I don't focus on every single race, just the series as a whole.
One of my first goals was to be the first male runner to win all 3 legs, and that feels really good to do that. I think it's important for everybody, no matter what they're doing, be it camera work or whatever, to set goals, go for them, and try to achieve them, else you're just kind of spinning your wheels. It felt real good to set a goal and go for it.
Here's a look at today's top 10 finishers. Carpenter, followed by Elliott, then Mike Tobin on the men's side. The second 5 starts with Bob Weed, then Eric Pearson, and on down to Craig Heacock. For the women, DeLacour followed by Joe Gathercone, Donna Falkenheim, and Cheryl Sapina, Ellen Abramson. The next 5, Cecilia Rosacker McCord, Nancy Schink, and finishing up with Marilyn Vronka. Each and every runner which crosses the finish line here at the Pikes Peak Ascent deserves to be commended for a job well done. But when you think about it, this is merely the halfway point in tomorrow's Pikes Peak Marathon. We'll be there to give you the best coverage. Reporting from the top of Pikes Peak, Brian German, Sports 13.
This is a Pikes Peak Marathon update, brought to you by Fitness Systems, Giuseppe's Depot Restaurant, Criterion Bike Shops, and by Grand West Outfitters.